Hello everyone, welcome to Liam's Lyceum. I'm your host, Liam, aka Himbar, and today I'm doing my weekly update. This is Liam's Leapings number 51 for the 19th of August, 2023. So this has been a good week of reading, better than my last updates, which was for 2 weeks, and I only read or finished 2 books. So this week I finished 5, and I made decent progress in 2 others. I don't think I read any short stories this week. I did write a poem. I believe I did it this week, yeah. But I didn't write any short stories or anything. I did get a couple rejections for short stories. It'd be nice if I got an acceptance. Whetstone is open again, Sword and Sorcery, amateur Sword and Sorcery magazine. So most of my viewers could probably go and submit to that. I probably should. I'm trying to work myself up into submitting because the last time I got rejected by Whetstone was probably the biggest disappointment of of all the rejections I get. Maybe because I had higher hopes. It was like my 3rd time submitting, I think. And I thought the story was good. And then I got rejected for a really silly reason. I still think it's the silliest reason I've ever had a story rejected. But anyways, I still like Whetstone. But I'm just feeling beat down kind of on my stories right now. I get a lot of rejections. So anyways, on to what I read though. I'm actually going to do these backwards. But I think... Oh, no. Well, yeah, kind of. Okay, so the last book I finished was Sea of Swords by R.A. Salvatore. I finished this one today. This is book 13 in The Legend of Drizzt, book 3/4 in Passive Darkness, I believe. Book 3 was originally, I think it's Servant of the Shard, which is now the first book in the Swords trilogy. So this is really book 13. I skipped Servant of the Shard. I'll read that series next, Swords next when I do Drizzt. I'm not a huge fan of Drizzt. If you've been watching my channel, you'll know that. But I've kind of gotten used to Salvatore's writing, so I didn't really enjoy the Cleric Quintet. I did enjoy the first 6 or so Drizzt books pretty well. The 2 after that were the ones that really kind of soured me on Drizzt. The next book after that was fine, and then the one after that was pretty poor as well. But since then they've been okay. I feel like the series could have ended here. I wonder if you wanted to end it here. Considering this was originally book 14, books 12 had a different main character, and book 13 had a different main character than Drizzt. I could see him trying to end it. Obviously, it's still not over yet, so here we are more than 20 years later, and it's still going on. So anyways, I did enjoy Sea of Swords, though. I didn't think it was bad. It did give me a couple surprises in there. It left me entertained. I just kind of ignore the big fight scenes, and sometimes there is some good interludes, which is kind of like Drizzt philosophy. The interludes are sometimes okay, but a lot of them are pretty worthless, I feel like. They're just like, I don't know, like a tween's philosophy almost. They just come off as very juvenile. But knowing going in what to expect really has helped me like kind of just like, okay, whatever. And I don't read a Drizzt book very often. Last few years I've read one a year. So that helps me keep my sanity. The book I finished before Sea of Swords was A Discourse in Steel. So I started this one a while ago. I put it on hold for Lord of a Shattered Land by Howard Andrew Jones, which I did talk to Jones actually on Nico's channel on Sunday. I'll try to link that video. You go to my community tab, though. It's the last thing I posted. You can just watch the recording there. That was very fun. I enjoyed it a lot. But this is also Sword and Sorcery, like Lord of a Shattered Land. It's very much in the vein of Fritz Leiber's Fafnir the Grey Mouser. You can definitely see some Conan, I would even say Cole influence in here as well from Robert E. Howard. It's very fun. I was a big fan of Paul S. Kemp's Forgotten Realms novels. Speaking of Forgotten Realms novels, I think he probably wrote the best Forgotten Realms novels in Erebus Kale. And it's those Erebus Kale novels that kind of got me into Sword and Sorcery as well, because Erebus Kale, you could argue whether or not it's Sword and Sorcery. I see there's probably a good argument for the first few Erebus Kale books. It gets a little more difficult in the later ones. They're definitely dark fantasy. It gets more epic in the later ones too. But I really enjoy Kemp's writing. I think he's mostly doing like Star Wars novels these days or something like that. But A Discourse in Steel, book 2 in Aeol Nix or Egel, however the heck you say it. I say Aeol because it looks like the Aeol saga, right? Aeol Scholar Grimson. So, anyways, very good. Book 2. There's a third one. I don't know if there'll ever be a fourth one. The third one's shorter. I'd like to read it soon, maybe sooner rather than later. The other book, or one of the other books I finished, was Road Marks. Not wow. Okay, I did finish Road Marks, but I'm not going to talk about that right now. Sorry. Sons of the Yoke by David Farland. This is book 5 in the Rune Lords. It's not very thick for an epic fantasy. It's rather short, and I think all the rest of them are shorter. This is kind of an interlude, since the first 4 books are like one arc, and the next one is another arc. This takes place initially 9 years after the end of Lair of Bones. It's a very interesting book. It's very different. In some ways, it's less epic. In other ways, it's more epic. So you'd have to read the books to get to them, but or to understand exactly what I'm talking about. But it's very good. I like this series actually. It's very dark. That's like one of my first thoughts always when I think of this series. It's very dark, more than I would thought. It's not like super gloomy and not very oppressive like you could potentially describe like Malazan, or even something like Black Company is a little bleak, to say the least. This is very dark in other ways. This one in particular had a lot of darkness that pertains to children that you don't often get in fantasy, and it's heavy, but it's not a lot in your face either. So, in fact, I finished this book and I felt good. All right, so it's contrasted very well. Farland knew what he was doing. And then I also, second book I finished this week was Road Marks by Roger Zelazny. It's an experimental novel, actually. It starts off in chapter 2, and then the next chapter is chapter 1, and then it goes 1, and then 2, and then 1, and then 2, and 1 and 2, and so forth, right? So 1 is kind of a very linear storyline. 2 is more random. And Road Marks is about a road that takes you through kind of different realities. There's a Hitler reference in here. Hitler is looking for the reality he wins, right? Which is funny. And then there's also like a time travel, right? So this last exit to Babylon is mentioned on here. And there's fantasy and sci-fi aspects. There's like artificial intelligence. There's also dragons, as you can see on the cover. So really stinking cool, like experimental Zelazny stuff. Tim, named after Tim the Enchanter from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I'm just joking. Tim from Renfail recommended this one to me a while ago when we used to talk more about books, and he'd recommend some of his old favorites. He's a big fan of Zelazny, and this, I think he mentioned it as his favorite at the time, and maybe one of his favorite reads of all time. It's tiny. It was on sale on Audible, actually, so that helped me get to it. But I enjoyed it a lot. It's just standalone. So, oh yeah, last book I finished, and I have a couple to talk about. Haven't finished yet. And that is Reaper's Gale, the first book I finished, I should say, this week. I talked about it last week. Reaper's Gale by Stephen Erikson. Maybe my least favorite of the Erikson Malazan books that I've read so far. It might not be quite, I don't know. This one and Memories of Ice have been my least favorites. The rest have all been like really tightly, like closely packed, tied around my favorites, right? I really enjoyed Gardens of the Moon, Dead House Gates, Bone Hunters, House of Chains, Midnight Tides. But that to say that these are bad books would be wrong. I think Reaper's Gale and Memories of Ice are both really good. This one just seemed like it took too stinking long, to be completely honest. And it is longer than the rest of them, so I can say that it probably maybe was. Though I've heard my buddy Raph say that like he didn't feel like that, but I can be very harsh when I feel like fantasy has bloat, and I feel like Reaper's Gale was a little too long. Now it's really good. I liked it a lot, and I am looking forward to Toll the Hounds and other Malazan books, but I just found like it was a little too long. I think it could have been shorter. It's not. I don't feel like there is as much payoff in this one as you get in Bone Hunters, which Bone Hunters is like payoff at least every part pretty consistently. So there's 2 books I read pretty much consistently. There's a couple I started. I'm not going to mention here because I don't know if I'll continue them right now, and I'm very, very, very much not into them right now. Right, just like a couple pages or a chapter or so. But I started Son of the Black Sword. So on Wednesday at my video with Steve Diamond came out, and Steve is someone I've met a few times in Utah, at conventions, which reminds me I need to get a ticket for another one. Um, excuse me. And it's his best friend is Larry Correia, right? Larry Correia is a decently popular author. He's more popular than Steve. And I haven't read very much by Larry really at all. The only book actually I read by Larry was the one he co-wrote with Steve. This is his epic fantasy series. I didn't plug in my cord before starting this. I should have. I rearranged the room, and so now I'm kind of thrown off with things. Hopefully, this looks fine. You get most of my bookshelves in the back now. But Son of the Black Sword is first in a 5-book series. It might end up being 6. Who knows? And it's epic fantasy. It's got some good sword and sorcery vibes in it, though. It's South Asia inspired, which is pretty cool. I think it's turned out well so far. The biggest South Asian inspired thing is a caste system. So I'm enjoying it a lot. I think it's actually really gripping. I started several books at the same time each, and after reading 2 chapters in each one, I was like, I want to read more of this. So I'm not going to tell you what the other books are right now, but this is entertaining. I've had it for almost a year. It's signed. I met Larry about a year ago in September, and I haven't. He's really busy because he's popular, so I didn't really get much of a chance to talk to him. Like I have a decent amount of other Utah authors, like Brandon Sanderson, for example. I haven't talked to him at all. I guess you should say. The more popular they are, the less likely I've talked to him. So the Black Sword, though, really enjoying this one. I should have it finished hopefully by next week. I'm like a fourth of the way through, maybe. I don't know. That looks about right. And then one book that I started ages ago, in March when it came out, I believe was when it came out, The Way of a Dawn by Philip Chase. I was really busy in March. It was the end of a semester, and I actually started like 3 or 4 books in that same like just few week period where I got about 100 pages in and I stopped. Now I finished 2 of those 4 so far, and this is the third one that I'm hoping to finish now, and then I'll have one left to go back and finish. I love this cover actually. Just the more I look at it, I love it. I think it might be my favorite of the other ones, but I don't have the other ones in my hand. Obviously, the third one's not quite out yet. And this is just a very fun fantasy. It's very much up my alley. It's a little slow. I don't think it's like poorly paced, just a little slow is all. Just the way it goes, kind of like Lord of the Rings. It's definitely got more action, Lord of the Rings, and more grit. It's definitely different in a lot of ways from the Lord of the Rings, but it does remind me a lot of it, largely because Chase is taking his inspirations from similar places as Tolkien did, in similar places from where Morris did. For example, he's a Morris scholar, as you could say, and I like Morris a lot, and I love Tolkien. And Philip Chase is doing a good job in that tradition. It definitely doesn't feel like a copy of a copy, which is what a lot of fantasy does, especially with epic fantasy, which then makes these epic fantasy worlds seem derivative and just weird in a way. You kind of know it when you read it, right? But you don't have that problem here, and it's really gripping actually. So I've actually mostly been reading on the Kindle, and I think I'm a chapter further than this. So yeah, so I only have like 3 chapters left. I'm on page 378. It says it's only like 440 something or something like that. Yeah, 448. So I should hopefully finish this one soon as well. Hopefully for next week, I'll have this one finished. I'm enjoying it. I don't know if I'll get to. I'm just broke. I've been trying to buy very little books. I don't know. Last week I got one book. The book haul is this book. I still have it right here. That's $2, and The Way of a Dawn is kind of. So I might just read it on Kindle or something if I do read it though. But I did get a book. Now I bought this one months ago. That is The Dead Man and Other Horror Stories by Gene Wolfe, the GOAT sci-fi author. If I can say Tolkien is my favorite fantasy author, then I get a chance to say that Gene Wolfe is my favorite sci-fi author, and it's not even close. This is Subterranean Press. I think it's the first I've ever got of theirs. Copy 58 of 1,000, I think. Gene Wolfe wrote a lot of short stories, like a lot. Okay, and I've read a handful. Some of them are really stinking good, the ones I read. I read his like New Sun Associated ones. I read one. I read one of them. I can't remember. And then Trip Trap is awesome. You should read Trip Trap if you haven't read it. But these are most of his ghost stories apparently. And I know, well, these are horror stories. Sorry, and I know Gene Wolfe loved his ghost story. So I'm interested to see like exactly how these go. If you have any recommendations of stories that are in here, point me out to read because I generally don't go through an anthology and just read all of them, or at least I don't do it very quickly. And so this reminds me that I do need to get to Short Sun by Gene Wolfe. And then once I finish Short Sun, I'll finish the whole solar cycle by Gene Wolfe. And then I'll feel more comfortable reading other stuff by him. I've read The Fifth Head of Cerberus. And besides those other short stories that I mentioned, that's it that I've read by Wolfe. So once I finish Short Sun, I can read like Peace or Operation Aries or The Wizard Knights or Latro. Right? Is it Latro and like Soldier in the Mist or something like that? Anyways, I'm really looking forward to reading more Wolfe as it goes. So I'm a big fan. I think he's probably one of the best authors ever, and you should read him if you haven't. So lots of good reading. That's the thing. I was feeling very overwhelmed earlier today because of all the good books I want to read, but I'm very happy with the good books I've been able to read. Like I finished 5 great books this week. I've got more I'm reading right now, more to read soon. So I'm enjoying it. And I'm very blessed in that sense, right? So, anyways, Liam from Liam's Lyceum and my overcrowded bookshelves in the background. What have you been doing this week? What's up with you? I'm still looking for a job, and that's stressing the crap out of me. I mean, I have a job, but it's very poor hours. Anyways, and I'm starting school back up here soon. So, anyways, I'll catch you next time.